Hey guys, today I wanted to kind of go a little bit in a different direction and talk about a topic that is pretty important to me. I know most of the time I just kind of give you guys some advice on how to manage your issues, and that will always be the main focus of this channel, but another reason I created this channel was to also speak about what's been on my mind recently. And so today I will be doing just that. For those of you who are newer to this channel and don't know already, I'm an EMT. As you can imagine, working in EMS, you end up seeing a lot of shit that the average person doesn't really see. It can definitely shift your perspective on life as a whole. Whether it's walking in a house to find a schizophrenic man painting his walls with feces because he wanted to be the next Picasso, and decided that doo-doo brown was a perfect color palette, having to respond to somebody's house at 3 in the morning because they were having toe pain that lasted about a week, or simply put, dodging punches from angry crackheads who decided that you're an asshole for narcating them after they OD'd. You see a lot to say the least, but sure, all these calls are interesting and are usually the ones that are always talked about, and I get why. Why start the mood and talk about the truly traumatizing shit when we can just focus on the obnoxious, funny, or downright stupid calls we respond to? Well, the truth is, unfortunately, the calls that have changed the way that I view the world and life as a whole were all the fucked up ones. And I feel like as a whole, we don't really talk about it enough, which is why I'm going to talk about these incredibly traumatizing calls while I play straight up Minecraft in the background. Very fitting, I know. But yeah, hopefully I can leave you with some wisdom from my experience. Who knows? Anyways, to get into this, a little background. I first got into the fire service at 16 when I joined my local volunteer department. Over the years, I ran a few calls occasionally when I had time, but ultimately, it wasn't until the last few years I really doubled down on working in 911. Before I eventually landed myself at a career fire department where we function as both EMTs and firefighters. To say I felt sheltered from the realities of life before I got the job would be an understatement. It's really hard to comprehend the fragility of life as a whole until you see it literally unfold in front of you. What you come to realize is how your life can absolutely get ruined in a split second at no fault of your own. This was the case when I got my first trauma patient. I'm not going to be super specific here, and I'm mainly talking about my patient because I want you guys to understand how important it is to not fuck around on the road. But anyways, a few years I got sent out to a call in the middle of the night for a vehicle accident, and as my driver and I were driving over to the call, I figured it was just going to be another typical fender bender. But as I was reading the call notes the dispatcher provided, I quickly realized it was way more than just that. It was revealed that the caller wasn't the patient, and the other vehicle involved was actively on fire. As we got on scene, I met up with the caller who was found crying profusely, yelling, "I tried to help them, I tried to help them." While next to him there was an entirely engulfed vehicle with nothing but silence and burning metal emitting from the car. Pretty soon, the tires began to pop off from the heat, and it was pretty obvious that there was no saving the person that was inside the vehicle. They were long gone. While the engine crew pulled a hose line to extinguish the now totally involved vehicle fire, I began assessing the only patient on scene to treat their injuries. To keep it brief, my patient had attempted to rescue the person from the burning vehicle. Unfortunately, the flames grew to be an issue, and they had to make the hard decision to back out. As a result, all that remained in the vehicle afterwards was literally just a charred corpse. My patient at the time wasn't seriously injured and opted to refuse transport. While the cops were interviewing them, my partner and I just continued to stare at the vehicle before us, where we were met by the sight of a person frozen in place reaching for their skylight. Clothes melted in their skin with the smell of burnt pork filling the air. Absolutely fucking revolting. It was suspected that the driver of the vehicle was heavily intoxicated at the time of the crash. There was no proving it, but what was known was the fact that they were going mock Jesus past the speed limit on the highway before losing control of the vehicle, and then their life in the equivalent of a oven on wheels. Yeah, pretty fucked up. But I bring all this up to kind of give you an explanation of how easily you can lose your life. Speeding, we all do it. There's no denying it. But there's also no denying that it needlessly risks our lives. Would they have lost control of the vehicle if they slowed down? Would they have more reaction time to steer into a guardrail instead of a fucking tree? Could they have found any other outcome other than burning alive in the same vehicle that they lived their life in? Every day we're out on the roads, and every day this sort of thing happens, and it drives me absolutely crazy. I wish people understood the fact that there's no surviving ramming your car into an immovable object at 90 plus miles per hour. Yet despite the warnings, it changes nothing. Hell, there's still a sizable number of people who literally still believe in the fact that you're better off not wearing a fucking seatbelt whenever you crash. But that's a story for a different time. One thing I want you to get out of this call is recognizing the fact that you're not invincible, and every time you're on the road, you need to be vigilant all the time. But with that reiterated, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the second big point now. The human body does weird things when experiencing trauma. When my partner and I were looking at what barely even resembled a human, we both didn't feel much of anything. You hear people talk about death all the time, and you expect some big emotional reaction. Some human lost the thing that they held most sacred to them. Yet here I was, feeling utterly unaffected. Sure, did the smell of burning flesh smell awful? Yeah. But the part that disturbed me more was questioning whether or not I was broken. Anyways, that's the thing. What may have seemed to be a lack of reaction was anything but. Over the next few days, I was hit with an incredible depression and numbness when I previously felt completely normal. My body was now reacting in a way that left me nearly paralyzed mentally. I'd feel utterly blank as I sat around my day to day life. The smell of burnt pork would fill my nostrils, instating that I should not smell much of anything. And that made me angry. I don't know if it was some cruel joke or punishment over not feeling anything on scene, but suddenly I was hit with everything days later. And for what? I have no fucking idea. The mission was completed, the job was done. Why did I need to return to the calls I quite frankly stopped giving a fuck about as soon as they were over? And then my therapist gave me the answer. Turns out with things such as PTSD, the effects are rarely immediately. You hear about these Vietnam veterans getting into these crazy gunfights, staying perfectly collected, and then next thing you know, 30 years later, they're still waking up screaming in the middle of the night. And why was that? It's because they never allowed themselves to fully process what the fuck they just saw or did. After hearing that, I realized for each and every one of these fucked up calls, charred corpses, dead mothers, naked grandpas, I only ran away from the calls instead of actually talking about it, which is what I wanted to talk about with you now. What I didn't realize was, at the time, the more I ran away from the trauma, the more it would haunt me, every single time. Every call I'd block out and forget about until the next, and I continued the cycle over and over. But the truth was, I never did forget about it. In one way or another, it would come up, and trauma is real fucking sneaky. I never got flashbacks, never woke up screaming in the middle of the night, but what I definitely was angry. After bottling up all these fucked up calls, it made me utterly pissed and depressed, and I was too brain dead to recognize what was even happening. My temper would be shorter than uh, shorter than a midget. The numbness of my depression became my baseline, and I'd have these weird ass fever dreams where it would literally be me responding to a highway covered in charred and mutilated corpses. It was fucking gross. But as time went on, these behaviors just continued to get worse and worse, and I had no clue what the hell was happening. I felt fine on calls, I still did my job, I didn't break down, so no, I don't have trauma, until I did. After bottling up my emotions for so long, I eventually got to the point where I did not care if I straight up lived or died. My behaviors got reckless, I just stopped caring about absolutely everything. It didn't matter how good of a day I had or how bad of a day it was all the same to me, just gray and numb. After being unable to handle it any longer, I decided to get into therapy, and that's where my life changed for the better. After meeting up with my therapist, I had to make the difficult decision to actually open up about the things that I pushed away. And it was so fucking hard. Unbelievably hard. To tell you that I was uncomfortable to spill out my guts to a person I didn't even fucking know, and tell them things I could barely even tell my own family, would not even come close to explaining how paralyzed I felt in that room. But I had no choice. It was either ramble on and spit out the words that burrowed through the depths of my mind, or go back to the emotionless, empty husk that I was before. So, as a result, I opened up, and that's when it all came out. The bodies, the anger, my family trauma, the depression, wanting to fucking end it. Everything came out, and holy shit did it feel good. You don't often realize the burden you carry until it's finally off your shoulders. I didn't have to bottle up things anymore, and I did not have to carry that burden. By learning to actually sit down, talk, and communicate the shit that I tried to hide, I learned that life didn't have to be so gray. I learned that I didn't need to not feel anything. I learned that I could, well, didn't have to, smell the smell of burnt pork every time I was on the side of the road. And it all started by opening up to a fucking stranger. Within the months that followed, I continued to go to therapy, I continued to talk about the fucked up calls, I continued to talk about my family trauma, and I continued to let it go. I wasn't numb anymore. The nightmare stopped. My brain decided to stop screwing with me by having the smell of burnt flesh fill my nose every single day. I just had to talk about it. So, what I really want you to understand about all of this is that by being vulnerable and actually opening up about the things that fuck you up, you can actually strengthen yourself as a whole. You'll let go of your weak spots and you can actually be okay for once in your life. I see it so often. People refusing to go to therapy because they're scared of opening up. People feeling like just talking about something is just a straight up waste of time. People not believing in it. But I tell you all this because I believe in it. I believe that you deserve to let go of your burdens. I believe that you don't have to be depressed. And I believe that you can actually be happy for once. And most of all, I believe that it all starts with straight up talking. The more we run from our trauma, the worse it's going to get. I'm a testament for that fact. So, for the love of God, start speaking. It's why I don't shy away from covering my dark traumas here on this channel anyways. I open up about a lot, and honestly, it's sometimes a little bit embarrassing, but I do it anyways because I feel so much better afterwards. I get it, it's scary to open up, fuck yeah it is, but do you know what's scarier? A world of depressed husks who remain as husks because they can't fucking talk. The depression and numbness is scarier, the nightmares are scarier, and not prioritizing our mental health is scarier. So I'm not going to be the person who just shoves everything away anymore because I did that for far too long. And I'm talking to you now because I don't want you to be that person anymore either. So before I go, I'm going to leave you with this. Truth strength means taking accountability over the fact that you're not okay and actually doing something about it, not running away from the answer. Talking about and admitting that you're struggling takes courage, hiding it doesn't. So let's work on healing together. I do hope this left you with some insight, and I hope you can learn from the lessons that took me way too long to learn from. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and most of all, I hope you have a great day. Take care until next time. Also, if you have any questions and want to talk about this a little bit more in the comments, be free to let me know below. Take care, okay?